Good morning. Hello and welcome to today's live. Today we're going to be talking about who you need to hire and when on your workplace journey. Now, going through the design and creating a new workplace environment can be a really exciting but also quite a scary time. And without the right people around you to help you support you on that journey, it might be a little bit daunting. There might be a few mistakes that you might make that you might have been able to avoid. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk you through who you need on your team, when you need to bring them on board, and what the value is that they're going to give to you in creating your new workplace environment. So the first person that I think that you need to hire on your team is your workplace strategist. Now, I might be a little bit biased in saying that, but let me explain why. So the first thing is understanding what a workplace strategist actually does. So a workplace strategist supports you in understanding how your organization actually works in order to help you understand what kind of space you need, how you need to set it up, and what kind of tools and resources you need in there in order to know how much space you're actually going to market for. So when a workplace strategist works with you, what they do is they unpack your business to look at how people communicate, what are the types of roles that they do, how do they connect with one another, what are the types of spaces that you want to see in your organization. They even look at what your business strategy is, what your values and your goals are, and how that translates into the behavior of your people so that we can begin to influence those connections to happen by the way that we create the space. When we understand all of that, we can put it into some metrics, and what that does is it puts out a number so that we can then understand how much space you actually need to be going to market for in order to lease. We can tell you what your minimum floor plate sizes need to be. We can tell you what the orientation of the building needs to be. We can discuss what are the extra requirements that you need in your building, such as end-of-trip facilities or data connectivity, anything that's specialized and unique to your particular business, and what you might need to be able to go to market for so that you're getting the best result. So that's what a workplace strategist is going to do for you, and that's why they need to be one of the first people that you get in touch with so that they can help support you on this journey. They can then also provide advice when you do start to shortlist your buildings around which ones are going to be more appropriate to actually achieve those needs that you've highlighted and identified through that process. The next person that you need to start getting on your team is a tenant advocate. Now, a tenant advocate is someone that represents you as the tenant and goes out to the market on your behalf and starts to gather information on what the available premises are and what your options are around that. Once they've got those options drawn together, they then help you analyze each of those options that are put on the table. You know, what is the commercial terms of those rental agreements? How much space are they offering? Does it actually then align with the strategy that you've developed? And what they then do is represent you in terms of being able to negotiate with your landlords in order to get you the best possible deal. They are the mediator that sits between you and the leasing agent. So as opposed to if you're going out and representing yourself, you would need to go out and speak to all of the different leasing agents because there are a variety of different agents in the market. They all then represent different landlords and different buildings. Whereas this way, with using a tenant advocate, they call all of those tenders in and they help you review it, and then they help negotiate that on your behalf to get you the best possible commercial outcome for you and your business. So once you've then understood which buildings you've got in the market and you've narrowed that down, the next person that you need to be engaging with is your interior designer. Now, the reason you engage with your interior designer at this point is because you already know what it is that you want to achieve in your building and how you want your workplace to operate. You've got a couple of options on the table in terms of what your space tenancies could look like. And now you need to see how those two fit together. So an interior designer is then going to start to be able to overlay the strategy that's been developed by your workplace strategist into the available tenancies to see how that all comes together. So this is what we call test fitting. Now, test fit is just a way of seeing if you actually fit onto the floor plate and to give you a visual understanding of how your business actually looks on a floor plate. Once you've got those test fit options in place, you can then begin to see how your organization would look in each of those buildings. And from the experiences that I've had when we've done this, you might even find some really surprising things because of the way that the shape of the floor plate is, that you might actually need to take more space than you originally anticipated because your requirements and the way that they need to fit don't fit with the shape of the building. And that might be because the distance from the core to the perimeter glazing is too narrow. There might be lots of columns. The shape of the floor plate might not work for you. Even the positioning of the core needs to be taken into consideration, whether it's a central core or a side core, and what that then has an impact on in terms of how your business connects and the people in your organization can communicate. So by getting that test fit done early, you can then have that visual guide around how you will actually fit into those floor plates. What you then can do is take those floor plates and have them priced up either by a builder or a quantity surveyor. So they also come in handy throughout the rest of the process. So a quantity surveyor or a cost planner will actually put a cost overlay onto your test fit so that you can then understand what the financial investment is going to be around delivering that project. And because of different buildings, you're going to need to look at different aspects and see whether or not there are different requirements that impact on your financial investment on each of those premises. So the next person that I would then recommend that you get involved is a project manager. Now, some designers can actually deliver this whole process, or they work in partnership with project managers, or depending on the size of your project, you may need to choose to actually elect to get a standalone project manager, because there needs to be dedicated time and resources that go into managing your project. Now, what a project manager does is they help you manage your project. They coordinate all your consultants, they engage with your whole team, they set out the milestones and the schedules, they help you meet your deliverables and make sure that you're actually getting into your premises on time. So typically we've got a lease that's expiring and we know that we've then got to work backwards from that date. The project manager holds everyone else to account to make sure that we actually hit those milestones and that we make sure that you're in on time. What they also do is they help manage those costs. So they're responsible for managing your program, but also managing your costs. So they want to know how much you've got to invest into your workplace premises, and then they ensure that all of your consultant team work towards ensuring that we're all hitting that and keeping everyone accountable to that. So those project managers will then also engage with those QSs or the builder or anyone else that they need, or perhaps they may even have that skill set in-house to be able to provide that for you, so that you can then get a really clear understanding of, if I go into this building, it's going to look like this, it's going to cost me this much, and I know what the commercial terms are on how I can deliver that. So once you've got those foundations in place, it's really easy for you to make that commercial decision around which premises you want to actually move forward with to execute a lease on. So the next people that we need to start thinking about in the process is potentially a storage consultant. So depending on the size of your organization, you might need someone to come in and do an audit of your existing storage facilities and to provide you with some advice on what can be archived, what are the digital ways that we can actually manage our storage, or how we can actually simply reduce the amount of paper that we have in our organization. Because paper and storage does cost us money. It's valuable real estate. And if we can be looking at more cost-effective ways to deal with that and to manage our storage requirements, that's going to be much more cost-effective for our business in the long run. So the other people that you are then going to need on your team are your engineers. Now, there's quite a number of different engineers that we need throughout the course of a project. We need structural engineers. So a structural engineer makes sure that when we are putting in new plumbing work, such as new kitchens, that we are actually putting the penetrations in an appropriate place and that we're not damaging the actual structure of the building. If we're putting in operable walls, we also need to engage the structural engineer there so that they can make sure that the slab is going to be supported well enough to actually hold up your operable wall. And there are other reasons. Maybe you've got an interconnecting stair. You're going to need a structural engineer to ensure that we are actually building something that is safe and is secure to deliver on the project requirements. The other engineers that you'll also require are going to be your services engineers. So these cover your mechanical, your electrical, your hydraulic, and your fire. So all of the stuff that typically sits in the ceiling and we don't tend to see, but is really important for the operation and the safety of our buildings. So the mechanical engineer, they deal with all your air conditioning. So they make sure that we've got plenty of fresh air come in, that we're not too hot and we're not too cold. And they're usually the ones that are making sure that all of those little bugbears that happen in our workplaces are ironed out before we actually get in there. So they're making sure that everything's happening, that we've got the right amount of air in our boardrooms, because when we start to go over 6 people in our boardrooms or any of our meeting rooms, we actually need to put in additional air conditioning to make sure that we've got the comfort levels there correct. You also need an electrical engineer. The electrical engineer does all things electrical. So they do the lighting, they need to do the data, and they do all the power that goes throughout the space as well. So that all needs to be planned out and mapped, and it needs to be coordinated in with your IT consultants as well, or your provider, to ensure that it's consistent and it actually manages the way that you work. The other consultants that you might also need will be a fire consultant, so all of your sprinklers and your fire safety and your egress are needed, but also your hydraulic consultant, so they're the one who deals with all your plumbing requirements. So no doubt every project is going to have a kitchen in it, so it does need plumbing facilities, so we will be needing a hydraulics consultant to get in there. Again, depending on the size of your project and how you're actually addressing it, you might also want to talk to a workplace management technology consultants. So what those consultants will do is help you understand what software and technology you need in your premises in order to help support and manage the efficient operation of your workplace. So that might be desk booking systems or meeting room systems. It might be about monitoring how people are actually using the space so that we can then continue to adapt and reconfigure that space to support how we are actually using it and what we actually need it for. We may also need an acoustic engineer. So dependent on the type of organisation that you have and how sensitive your business is to noise or privacy between meeting rooms, the engagement of an acoustic engineer may also be required. So what they'll do is they'll help support the design team in actually understanding what are the needs of the client, and then how do we actually ensure that the premises are constructed in a way that supports that. So they'll advise on the wall type constructions to make sure that there's no transfer of sound between walls. They'll talk about reverberation and echoing so that rooms are suitably acoustic and they're not getting that reverberation that comes through as well. The next person that we need on our team is our certifier. Now, a certifier is really important because without them, we don't get our building approval, which means that you can't occupy your space. So a certifier will help with the design team to ensure that the design is completed in a way that is compliant with all of our national codes of construction and our building codes of construction. So what they do is they ensure that we're meeting with all our disability access requirements, we're dealing with all of our fire egress correctly, and that our buildings are safe and are habitable for us to be in. So what they'll do is they'll work with the design team throughout the course of the project, and they'll be providing advice. And at the end, when we're actually ready and we've got a full set of drawings and documents and we're ready to go into construction, they'll do the review and approval of those, and they certify them on behalf of the council so that you can then start construction and building. They also then come back at the end of the project and provide you with your final certificate of occupancy, which is what you need in order to get your insurances across the line and so that you can actually move into your premises. So then once we've got all of those people on board, we actually need to start thinking about how we're going to bring our people on this journey and how we are going to start preparing them for their transition into their new workplace. And so for this, we actually need to be engaging with our change manager. So you may have this capability internally, or you may seek to bring those people in externally, but a change manager is going to help you and your team prepare for this transition into your new work environment. It may be only a soft transition and we just might be upgrading our facilities, or it might be quite a radical transformation for your business and changing your whole way of working, which means that your teams need to have a lot more guidance and a lot more support because you're effectively needing to teach them new ways of working to utilize and make the most out of the new space that they're occupying. So then we all need our builder, because if we don't have a builder, we don't have anyone to actually construct this fantastic new space for us. So the project manager will help you go out to market, to conduct a tender, to call pricing, so that you can then go through those pricings and see who's going to deliver you the best quality of fit out for the best value money. And so the project manager will guide you through this process. They'll then also help you negotiate contracts, ensure that the tenders are accurate and comparable across each of the tenders and nothing's been left out, that they're going to be able to deliver it in terms of the program that was being set, but also that they've got all the correct insurances and things in place to make sure that they are suitably licensed and qualified to actually deliver you the most accurate space, and it's going to suit your needs. So the project manager then will work very closely with the builder through the delivery phase of your work environment. So they make sure that at each week the milestones are being met, they're answering questions, and they're also then helping the builder problem solve any of those last minute tedious issues or surprises that we do tend to find when we start opening up our building sites. They'll then manage the builder right through to the completion and ensure that we get to that practical completion date, and that we're then carrying out our defects inspection. So our defects inspection is just a record of anything that we think isn't quite up to the standard or hasn't been completed as we would have liked by the time that we've completed the project. So once we've got all of those people, we're handing over the keys back to you as the client, and we now need to talk about how we're going to move from our current premises into our fantastic new bright shiny premises. So that's when you need to hire a removalist. So depending on the removalist company, they will provide you with a broad range of services that can help you move everything from even kitting out and fixing up your monitors to your new monitor arms on your workstations. So that gives you a bit of a nutshell about all of the people that go into the process of actually delivering you a new workplace environment. There are a number of people that do get involved, but what you will see is that return on your investment for engaging with those people will ensure that you've got the right amount of space, that you're getting the best commercial outcomes, that you're dealing with any of those base building issues nice and early. You're capturing those costs. You know what the fit out is going to cost you. We know what that investment is going to be. And then you're able to manage that to ensure that you're optimizing that to the highest level to ensure that your team is then transitioning into that space and absolutely making the most of it. So thank you very much for joining me today. It's been fantastic speaking with you. If anyone does have any questions, please drop them in the comments or pop over into the Facebook community dialogue group. I'd love to have a chat with you and continue the conversation. This is one that I really enjoy having conversation about. So if you do have any questions, please drop in. I'd love to hear from you. I'll chat to you soon. Bye.